First of all, thank you for having a topic which I was anticipating that they would talk about employment, but interestingly, it's employability and empowerment. So employability is means to achieve employment. And what better panelist can I have? So it's a moderator's delight to have more than 100 years of experience in skilling and human resource on the dais today. So thank you, panelists, for being with us today. And thank you, audience, for being with us. So I think we are already running late by 10 minutes and I've been asked to keep it short. So I'll try to do that. What I'm going to do, because I see a lot of audience and you would have many, many questions. So we'll keep last 10, 15 minutes for the question and answer. And we'll stick to the agenda. If you are in this room, I'm safely assuming that either you are interested in enabling empowerment and employability, or you are already working in it. So with that background, I think I'll begin the session today. And the goal for this session is to understand what innovations are happening, be it operating model or be it innovations in financing of skilling in India. Secondly, we'll also talk about sustainable models, because these days we are seeing that a lot of low-hanging fruits, pardon me if I'm using wrong words, but we are running after employment and not employability. So we'll talk a bit of it with the help of panelists. We are also going to talk about how skilling is helping solve the migration problem. Forced migration, not the willful migration, it's always good. But if you are forced to migrate, then skilling is a solution and why it was not looked at a solution till date. And then finally, we'll also talk about some of the emerging models, be it locally in India and be it some of the international models. So to begin with you, sir, Sanjeeva sir is representing NSDC, the apex body. I'll ask first question to you, sir. What is happening in India in last 10 years? So, massive growth in skilling and this sector. Before that, it was more kind of, people used to call it livelihood, but this has been a buzzword for last 10, 12 years or so after NSDC came into picture. So, sir, what is happening and what NSDC is doing? So.
Thank you. So NSDC incorporated in 2008 and started its business. Hello. Yeah. So NSDC started in 2008 and started skilling in 2009. But when NSDC started skilling, I think the word skilling was not known to majority of people. Yeah. Yeah. So NSDC started in 2008 and started its business in 2009 under Ministry of Finance. And when they started their business, at that time, even public were not aware of what is the meaning of skilling or skill. But in last 10 years, a long journey we have traveled. Initially, we have to start that what should be infrastructure, how it should be created, what should be content, what should be pedagogy, what should be standard, how it should be certified. A lot of work has been done. But now coming to at present scenario, that what we are doing for skilling as on date. So after long journey, and we have researched the entire world that what is the better way to have the efficient impact of skilling. So recently we have done one good project called Skill Impact Bond. And that is the third impact bond of India in terms of time chronology. But in terms of volume, it's the number one, you can say highest volume. Its value is 130 crores. And worldwide, it's approximately 82th bond in a world. So normally in a normal CSR activities, whenever we are giving any project, there are only two parties and one beneficiaries, like donor and service provider. Donor are paying certain money and on return of that, they are being asked to train and make them employable with a service provider, certain numbers. But in case of skill impact bond, two more player comes. So third party is being asked that if we will be paid the amount only when you are giving the outcome. By completing skilling and putting them in the job for 3 months or 6 months, if you are completing them, only then you will be getting job. And that is called risk investor. Risk investor is again having agreement with third party called service provider. And service provider is providing that service that is being verified by a fourth party called evaluator. So in case of NSDC Skill Impact Bond, there are 4 outcome funder, SIF, HSBC, JSW, and Dubai Care. Risk investor are NSDC and MSDF, Michael Student Foundation. We are selecting 5 different service providers, and as an evaluator, we are having OPM, Oxford Publication Management. So in case of this skill impact bond, there is a clear guidelines that whatever initially they are starting, if the same outcome is coming for the entire 4 or 5 years, risk investor will not get even a single paise as a profit. So there must be some kind of increment in their efficiency every quarter. And only then if they are getting the desired result in outcome, they are able to get certain amount of return on their investments. That is one innovative model. Second model, NSDC is doing as a skill guarantee scheme, wherein suppose if you are giving 50,000 rupees to one guy for getting training, you are impacting one guy. This amount is being used as a FLDG, first loss default guarantee through a financial institution. With the same amount, you can create impact to minimum 10 guys. So these are some financial instrument we are using. Apart from that, in case of mobility, NSTC is also working on international mobilities. So that I will discuss when the really appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think that's one innovation which was happening in some of the developed countries, but India in skilling specifically have never seen an impact bond. We have examples in education sector, impact bonds being implemented in India. But I think for better clarity of audience, my follow-up question would be, what role an NGO, CSR foundation, and some of the knowledge partners can play in this specific roles? You know, as you said, it's a multiple partners are involved in impact bond. So specifically for CSR foundations, for NGOs, and for knowledge partners like consulting organizations, what are their roles in this?
See, in skill impact bond also, one outcome funder, which is VC, they are just paying money from CSR fund. So CSR fund can be utilized for skill impact bond. And the main benefit for donor are that they are getting good transparency. In case of one-to-one model, like outcome payer and service provider, there may be some discrepancy, there may not be the quality of outcome, but in case of skill impact bond, there is 0% chance of any difference in data. Reason being, whatever outcome fund payer are paying, only when that is being verified by the fourth party called, in case of SIV, it's a OPM, that is called evaluator. So there is a complete transparency for outcome payer. In case of service provider, like NGOs, in case of SIV, what is happening that whenever we are talking on quarterly, weekly basis, that how we will improve our quality. And we are having a monthly meeting wherein all service providers, they are providing what's their challenges and what's their strength, what they are doing. So that's why they're able to get higher impact. And some people are saying that these are their challenges. And when we note down someone's challenges and their strength, what we are finding that one's challenge remains the strength of some other companies. So that is creating a good collaboration with our service providers. And prior to SIV, Skill Impact Bond, various NGOs, they are saying that they are the number one in skilling. But after 1 year of this Skill Impact Bond, they all are saying that no one is number one, they all are collaborating and they are learning from each other. That is the main outcome we have got from SIV, that yes, in every area, if there is no improvement, then we are just decreasing our quality. But through this kind of impact or bond or this kind of innovative instruments, we all are growing and we are moving ahead. And unless until we are not moving ahead, we are going down.
All right, so we have impact investors, outcome players, and then a role for NGO, which is service provider, and also fund manager, which probably consulting organizations can play. So that's a financial innovation. Right from financial innovation and my right, I'll move to my left. So Jatin sir, you are representing Adani Foundation. And Adani Foundation has been quietly working in quite a lot of states, I would say. So I know we have been discussing about a simulator-based model that you have started, and it's one of its kind. So can you explain a bit more about it for the audience?
See, when we think about skill development, there are a lot of repetitive tasks which during the training and at the end, I mean, in the industry, students have to perform. I mean, when they start generating their livelihood. Now, all those repetitive tasks, we normally provide training program into classrooms, and then we normally forget to create an ecosystem wherein certain repetitive tasks can be minimized or efforts can be minimized. So what we have done, we identified those areas and then started looking for technical solutions on that. I mean, you are coming from a technology background, you better understand that from Tech Mahindra. We have created our training programs in a way that digital and phygital simulators are available. And keeping all non-technical, semi-technical, and technical skills in mind. One of the classic example I would say for an electrician program. Of course, we have higher-end simulation as well, but electrical program. This is a program where normal skill development companies are operating across nation, and in general, all industries require such kind of skill sets. We created an environment which is digital where entire two-bedroom hall kitchen or any industry wiring can be done without any kind of physical material. So the student can connect from the meter to the remotest part of that room where the connection is required, phase, neutral, connection is done through all industrial standards, color, thickness of wire, and keeping safety in mind. So when we think of repetitive task, the cost of the raw material and the safety, the simulation practices and digital practices are the way which can save the life. So this is how we operate in multiple ways. I mean, this is one example, but in general, all programs where we operate, their part of assessment is done through simulation, practice is done through simulation.
Yeah, I mean, so in most of the technical skills, usually it used to happen learning by doing, and you would have seen electrician, plumber, they get attached to ustad, and then while operating, then they would learn. But this simulator-based training not just takes care of safety part of it, but also fast tracks the basic fundamentals, while there is no replacement of a ustad and also learning by doing, but I think simulators is still fast track the theoretical process of learning nuances.
Correct.
So thank you for that, Jatin sir. I'll move to Joyeeta you now because technical skills are important. But how do you see young children who would be entering into workforce and surviving, I would say, or thriving in this Bani world? Right? So you have worked quite a lot on 21st century skills. So how do you see importance of 21st century skills?
Thank you for that question. Very, very important. I think, we talked so much in the previous session about aspirational district, the kind of need for, strengthening our districts and the infrastructure. And we've been talking about this for the last 75 years. If we really go into the human capital, which is India's strength, and take the journey of a learner from school into higher education, into a workforce, or even a work opportunity, not necessarily everybody will kind of land into a job. They could create jobs, and that's something that we should all actually acknowledge, because they will create more jobs than one person landing into a job. But I think it's done parallelly, because it's not like you land into a job and learn how to survive. We've all started somewhere, but first generation learners, it's a different story. I'll tell you, I'm not going to share a lot of data. There's so much data anyways that's available to everybody. I think we missed the video while we were all settling in. There was a story of 3 first-generation learners and how they have, from their school days, understood the need of project-based learning, applied all the C's of a 21st century learning skills, and developed certain projects, certain MVPs. We were really glad to do a lot of tech mentoring. And a few of them actually have also landed up into jobs or created a small organization, something around networking or web solutions and so on. So we really found 3 important things. One, the need for a role model. They may not have access to that, and that's an important aspect of growing up when, they have a role model, even if it is like a panchayat leader. Learning, shaping up their personality and everything. We've had first generation learners actually, and happy to share this with the audience, landing up at a job at IBM, brilliant at technology, unable to cope up like you said. However, I think the organization, who is about 111 years old, had this insight or foresight to say that, okay, we will work with HRs and mentors and CSR together and have that counseling and guidance periodically on a weekly basis, monthly basis, or quarterly basis, whatever that is. And that's planning and that's designing. So at one point, we have all these amazing initiatives and tools and resources from the government. On the other, we've got to match that with all. But I feel that tech mentoring and understanding the fear, addressing some of them, making the child or leaving the learner better than whoever has come in to any corporate or any NGO. We encourage, in fact, our not-for-profit partners also to see if they can use some of these, and we've had real success stories there, if they can use some of these learners in the areas that they feel, for example, in media, in writing. So one organization cannot solve that. So I think we really need to talk about a lot of collectives or a lot of organizations coming together for tech for good, for social impact, whatever hashtag works, but actually transforming somebody's life forever.
Thanks, Joyeeta. I think, so 21st century skills are sustainable skills. And as we said, in this Bani world, soon skills will become redundant. Simulators coming in, new technologies coming in. So I think 21st century skills will help you in surviving.
Sajid, if I can add a very good example for an audience. I don't know if a lot of you have read about this book called The Lighthouse. It's about this young boy, enterprising boy called Shantanu Naidu. He works for, Tata Trusts, right? Ratan Tata's sort of, it's an organization, let me put it this way. It's an organization that he set up called Good Fellows. And he also worked with pets and street dogs and designed a motor collar. But the point is, when he started the employment drive to survive in a bad world, I just wanted to give this example. His employment drive said, if a person is empathetic, if the person has the ability to inspire, please come and meet me at a secret location. Now, how beautiful is that? Who's been beautifully mentored. I'm not saying that all of us may have the good fortune to be mentored by somebody called Ratan Tata, but we may actually become that mentor for somebody who's really lost in a big bad world.
Absolutely. So, thanks, Joyeeta, for sharing this. So, Uttam sir, moving from skills to craft. Craft is sustainable. And NTPC is known for designing localized interventions. You are one of the few organizations which have worked in places like Ladakh, J&K. So your experience of designing and implementing localized interventions, please.
First of all, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Sajid sir. In fact, I'll share the experience of J&K and Ladakh because it's a different experience altogether. We decided to go for skill development, and no doubt, definitely with the support of Sanjeeva Singh sir, NSDC was there. So we entered into an MOU, and it's not only J&K, but we are targeting J&K as a major force and across India with a vision to states where there is either there is an unemployment or there is a lack of skill for the local populace. In that, we have taken around 84 skill sets. I'll quote a few, like your mobile and LED repairs, then your customer care executives, then your bedside nursing is nowadays very much in demand, so on and so forth. And the experience was amazing, especially in J&K and Ladakh. The young ones are full of enthu, So they all, about 8,000 plus, nearly, or take it 8,000 plus boys and girls were trained, even in beautician course. And there is a value chain. We cannot just train them and leave them. We provide them either with the placement, or many of them, they set up their own small ventures. And we are constantly taking, definitely with the NSDC, as Sanjeeva Singh sir was sharing, that there is a portal. So we get a constant feedback. Still we are taking a feedback, so that the whatever efforts we are taking, it is finally coming to ground realities. And once the young force, either they will become a self-employed, or they can get placed in any industry or hotel or anywhere. So that's a major achievement for us and for NTPC, as we definitely generate power. And our aim is to empower the young boys and girls, so they will come up with their own setup, or they have a good placement.
Thank you, sir. I mean, Jatin sir, I'm coming to you. So, new economy jobs to Ladakh and JNK mein nahi hai, right? So, most of the jobs are these days are either in ITES, BPO sector or retail sector. So, because in most of these areas where all of us want to work, we don't have enough structured employment, right? So, how do you balance short-term skilling and getting a job in a mall versus a sustainable livelihood?
See, when the opportunities are not there, we have to create it. Again, I would like to have sharing with one example. We have aspirational districts in India, and I would quote one in northeastern part of Jharkhand, wherein opportunities are not. The district is Godda. We have two very successful models being run there, one for education and one for skill development. I'll focus on skill development. We identified some villages where there was no opportunity. Even electricity was a challenge. We identified villages, identified women, trained about 1,500 plus women on stitching, tailoring. We had some certain things in back of mind, but there were some challenges. Getting those women out of the home itself was a challenge. Convincing family members, convincing husbands more specifically, where the family income per month was about 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, 2,500 rupees, that was up to. We trained them and requested local government to provide some kind of solutions where the stitching of school uniforms for school children can be done through these women. So we created a producers company. Government convinced, they were convinced and then provided the order. The first order these women got to stitch uniform for school kids were 12 crores rupees, the first one. All the women were engaged. The surprise part was when these husbands were not ready to allow women to go out of the home, they were coming with a tiffin for that ladies. So this is how the opportunities were created. This not only provided a sustainable livelihood, created a model which can be replicated across the nation wherever it is required. There are schools everywhere. There are corporates everywhere. Uniforms are very well part of each and everything. So these kind of models are replicable and creates an opportunity where the migration also is controlled. So this is how, this is one example. I can go on. We have the time limitation, so I can go on examples, but this is one example where we have created opportunity for locals.
So, most of the professionals look out for opportunities available, but you said creating opportunities, especially in areas where we don't have new economy jobs, is pretty much important. And this is part of innovating, operating models where we just not do a matchmaking kind of arrangement. Okay, market mein ye jobs available hai, aap train kar do and get them a job. So that's the easiest thing that we can do, but creating opportunities is more important. Sanjeeva sir, you travel a lot internationally also. So any international model that you see is having scope of implementation in India?
Yeah, thank you for your question. So for even international model, we are having four legs for any kind of employment. First is demand side, demand aggregation. Second one is supply side. Third is skill gap identification, and then matchmaking. And particularly for international mobility, what we have realized that since there are different countries, different regulations, lot of problems people were facing when they are going to international market. So NSDC has established a new company in name of NSDC International as a 100% subsidiary. And we have got from an international agency that in which country there are demand for workforce. India being a young country wherein we have more than 70% of workable population. There are some countries, developed countries, where more than 20% people their age is more than 80 years. So they need workforce from India. NSDC has done a good survey from all those countries, and based on their demand side, we have just verified that what will be our supply side. What kind of qualification and skilling we are providing in India and what is required in those countries. NSDC has put their staff, and with support of external ministry, embassies, they are aggregating their demand, and based on their requirement, we are also just providing some kind of tools to our training provider in India that they can provide training as a standard of international market. Apart from that, all those testing agencies, different countries are having their different qualification packs, NSQF and assessment agencies. We are bringing those assessment agencies to India. Reason being, getting certified in different countries is a very costly affairs. Like getting a driving license in UAE cost approximately 6,000 dinar. And a normal guy who is going from India, for even as a cab driver, he will have to put that much of investment in those countries. So what NSTC is trying, we are talking to government, G2G, with UAE government, that if their same regulation can be tested in India by providing right-hand driving, the same kind of track, and if their regulator can come to India and provide them certification, it will be easier for Indian person to go and get job in that. Apart from that, we are having a full-fledged staff in different countries wherever we are providing job in market, and every month we are verifying that what kind of job they have got, what they have been promised at the time of appointment, whether the same kind of work they are getting or they are getting salary on time or not. Normally what we have heard and we have seen in various movies that people were just got appointment letter for being a accountant, and while going to different countries they are doing some sweeper job and some different kind of job. So we are verifying all those things, and since it is G2G conversation, there is no chance of this kind of hanky-panky. And when we close all those loops, like we are having a good demand aggregation, that skill gap study, and whatever gap, that kind of training being provided to India. And suppose if certain training cannot provide to India, we are imparting a skill loan to those guys who can go to those country, they can get a skilling, they can get job, and after that, they can repay the loan. So we are giving some kind of guarantee to NBFCs, and they are specialized in giving loans. So all those loops we are closing so that there should be a good employability and international mobility from India.
Sir, you gave UAE drivers example. A few more examples will help audience in understanding from different countries maybe, because see, in healthcare also and in other skills also where compliance is very high, we know that Indian nurses, Indian paramedics will have to appear for a test. Most of the time they are not considered qualified to work in countries like US, UK. So I mean, this new entity which you spoke about, how will it solve problem of skilling partners in India? I mean, how do we match international standards?
Sure. So we are connecting with various training institutes and accreditation body of those countries. If we talk about Australia, so for just getting job in Australia, one has to get IELTS level 5. Only then they can get a blue-collar worker job in Australia. We are discussing with testing agency of IELTS that whether they can test our candidate in India itself by paying the nominal fee. Apart from that, even for nurses, what kind of qualification and accreditation they are requiring, we are talking with them, and we would like to verify that yes, the candidate who is trying to move from India, they must have that level of qualification. Even we are discussing with various universities and accredited training institutes So setting up their own center and accreditation center in India. So these are some activities we are providing. And it's not one country. For all different countries, wherever we see that there is demand for workforce, we have a separate division. And for different countries, different guidelines, compliance, that is being managed in India. So as on date, we are in discussion with 12 countries, and we are trying to set up different collaborative, you can say, training center, assessment center, and even we are requesting universities to set up their branch in India. Like even up to a worker level, up to university level, like Harvard Business School, that is called the #1 in entire world. Even we are in discussion with HVS that they should open their branch in India, and NSDC will host that. So that level of collaboration we are trying to all level, not only to universities, to the testing institutes, and also with the requirement of employer, that what kind of quality and skills they are requiring. All those gaps we would like to fulfill in India itself in a very cost-effective way.
Thank you, sir. So we'll be closely following NSDC going forward for more information on this. But Joyeeta, you would recall last year, Honorable Prime Minister of India, he made a very strong statement that exporting skilled manpower should be the key strategy of skill development in India. So IBM being a global giant, do you see India emerging as supplier of global manpower? And if no, what are the gaps?
I'm a 2 decades or more CSR career professional. I'm not an HR expert, so pardon me for any of those nuances that I may miss. But I think, to the example of healthcare professionals, I know for the longest period of time that northeast region of our country has been training and skilling young professionals and paramedics for geriatric care in Japan, right? And that's a great example because they take very few numbers. But the way, the quality input that happens obviously goes a long way in the quality. And, as we all know, Japan, I think for whatever reason, the people there live really long. So that kind of ecosystem has been created. It's a very small example. There are chefs, there are cooks, but coming to the role-based learning environment that we are talking about, I think the most important piece is quality level skilling. An organization, just because you asked me, an organization like IBM obviously works with many staffing organizations in India as well as globally. And we really, it's like creating that supply chain network, making sure that you enable them as well to the highest regulatory standards as well as skilling standards. But having said that, is that enough? I don't think that is enough. But I think just as we have in a government policy that are well crafted, well thought of, I think from, I'll take a little step, not from just an organizational point of view, but for the audience here, from a world of CSR, it is equally important for us to draft well-designed CSR programs. Then that design is very critical, where we get all the stakeholders, whether we do programs here or internationally. Actually, for IBM at least, India is an exemplar because no other country has the company law. So we are an exemplar. We've trained about 1.7 million learners on our platform called Skills Build. We've created a program out of that. We launched it with Ministry of Skill Development, DGT, in 2019, November. We have seen about, we've invested in a livelihood platform which is tech-based again. So there is enough proof of performance, like service centers. We know the numbers. We have all of those measures. We've placed about 35,000 learners across small and medium organizations. And that's something that we think that if we really create a model, get more industry partners together, get more, policies aligned to it, I think that we can really scale that. We can really have that control of an execution, because if you ask me, my answer to all questions these days is just execution. We do not need more policies, we do not need more guidelines, we have enough and more. We have really no patience, I'm sorry to disagree with the previous panel, but we have no patience as Indians anymore. We need to see the outcomes on the road, around us, and make that transformational.
You want to say something? All right. So we still have 5 minutes to go, and I really want Uttam sir to talk about the archery project that you are doing. Because sports in this country is just a skill. It's not considered a profession until you become Virat Kohli. So how is NTPC approaching archery as a sport, not just as a sport, but as a profession?
That's very close to my heart. एक पुरानी कहावत है, थोड़ा हिंदी में आना पड़ेगा, कि पढ़ोगे लिखोगे तो बनोगे नवाब, खेलोगे कूदोगे तो होगे खराब. We wanted to change it. खेलोगे कूदोगे तो होगे लाजवाब. So in fact, we are now we have just adopted. In fact, today we are having that meeting with SAI. So we have adopted archery. हम बचपन में पढ़ते आए अर्जुन and Karan and then Robin Hood. But still, since 2015, we have taken archery as a game. Generally, the cricket, football, and hockey, they get good sponsors. But archery and other games, they are not being taken more importance. So NTPC decided to take archery as one of the prime projects. And we are from the grassroots level, we will take the school children, and that too from the rural backgrounds, because if you go to Chhattisgarh, you go to Jharkhand, they have a natural, their hunting skills are archery, so we are trying to capture them, we'll promote them, and I'm cutting it short, and we are hoping that in 2024, I think Olympics are there, we are hoping that we may get some good results of this archery team from senior level to junior level, and to the lower level. We are going to facilitate with international coach, international equipments, everything. We are spending about 115 crores on the archery game itself. And also we are creating infrastructure for adventure water sports.
And that's great, sir. I can see sparkle in your eyes and the loud cheer. So definitely sports is one thing which can turn the tables, and India is a force now in
Parents
sports.
will definitely now send their children to sports as a profession. अभी तक हम engineering medical से बाहर निकल नहीं पाए हैं. Everyone is laughing. We want, NTPC wants that, yes, internationally sports is a bigger profession. So why can't in India? We have huge manpower. So that is what our aim is. Let's hope.
No, grateful to you, sir. I mean, sports is for elites these days, badminton academies, lawn tennis academies, cricket academies, but archery, and that too in areas where you are operating, is something commendable. So thank you for that. I can see volunteers from both the sides
Thanks a
giving
lot.
scary looks. So I'll try to just summarize here. Yeah, we'll come to the questions. So we spoke about innovation, sustainability. I wanted to briefly touch upon how CSRs and how PSUs, how global giants are aligning their CSR activities and their skill development plan with their business. Unfortunately, we could not. And we also spoke about some of the emerging models. Definitely, sir, we will be following NSDC website more eagerly now. I think that's it. I wanted you to speak about your innovations, but unfortunately, time is not there. So we open the house for questions now. So volunteers, if you can help, please.
Thank you. Good or very insightful session. I will cut my introduction short. I know we're running short of time. Only two things, I think it was very insightful. But I think the term quality came very, very often, because I think we do realize quality. So I think one has to really also think about the trainer development ecosystem as a part of skilling. I think, I'm sure everyone would have points to make, but I think that is one area from an institutional perspective that requires a lot of thinking. I think the trainee will not develop quality unless and until, trainer also focuses on quality. And second, is also while, we can teach archery, we can teach or train someone on mobile repair, AI, machine learning, what about that attitude? I think, the soft skills versus hard skills, so, I think somewhere one has to also, give some institutional thinking to the word attitude as a part of the skilling, thing. I'm sure, there'll be, some insights on that would be very, very helpful for the audience.
Yeah, I think Uttam sir wanted to respond.
In fact, it's not only archery, it's a sports science. And our final aim is that we should produce the international level coaches. Now we are hiring the services of Korean coaches, but India should come up and our coaches should go across the world and teach others archery. That is the aim. That is one part. We are having smart classes across all our plants. And first we train the teachers. So I think that answers to your second question also.
Yep, she had a question, so maybe I can.
Good evening. Thank you for this session. My name is Archana Chaudhary. I'm from an organization called Dignity Foundation. And as you can see from my gray hair, I represent a community which is often ignored but is equally vulnerable, that of senior citizens. So ma'am, you spoke about longevity. You spoke about an example of Japan. What is anybody sitting in higher places doing about senior citizens? Don't they need employability? Don't they need a second innings? Can something be done about empowering them? Because soon enough, each one of us has to go through that phase in life. So what are we doing about senior citizens? Please, ma'am, this question is for you. Thank you.
I wish I had a very simple answer. We are still starting from the cradle, from the other side. There's so much to do for the children who've not got all of this, but it's a very, very pertinent question. Key industry organizations or partners or, government and not-for-profit partners definitely can come together and create a plan. Organizations like, I'm not naming anybody, but a few organizations already exist, right? But they probably just exist to take care of food and shelter and all of that. You're talking of a higher sort of thinking where the basics have not been answered. So I wish we answer this as a country, but there are tons to do. I mean, I'm sure you will agree that in the morning session, having attended several summits and workshops of CSR and business over years, I was a bit depressed, thinking that, oh my God, do we have so many issues? Of course we know. But if you slice and dice that over quarter centuries, right, we may find some answers, and the answers are actually to strengthen our districts. And what I thought is I'll go back and ask my partners and understand and create, you're happy to make a plan around that, create and co-create a state execution plan or a vision where we will have an utter innovation mission which the government has created, walks into an ITI which the government has created, walks into a government college which is absolutely brilliant with all the capacity, works into a funding organization, somebody funds them, and then they land up into a job or create jobs, right? So everybody is happy. Maybe the child there can take care of a few needs, and maybe there is no need for that senior citizen to go and work at that age and have really some of those enjoyment that they deserve at that age. So honestly, this is a vision of a aspirational district that we are struggling here. We don't have a short answer. If other panelists have an answer, I'm more than happy to, especially you from the government. If you have, or if you have an answer, I wish address that.
So
Just
rightly
passing the buck.
rightly pointed out that as on date, we don't have proper answer for that, but yes, we need to think on that.
And that's, yes. Thanks, ma'am. Your point taken. Uttam sir wants to say something on this, please.
Ma'am, we are having a little bit in this approach. Generally, power sector is a very specialized sector, and with a rich experience of persons, if they are getting superannuated, we have a portal. So we ask them to register. We either hire their services as a consultant, or as a mentor, or as an advisor to any other organization. So definitely about 20 to 30%, we are giving them second innings. But yeah, still not completely. Sir, I think आप भी कुछ बोलना चाह रहे हैं.
See, I have no answer to that, but one thing I can share with you is you have raised a very valid, genuine question, and it has given a hint to lot of organizations here to think on that direction. Probably not today. We may have 100 solutions maybe in coming days. So we also will be thinking that what can be done in an organized way. Of course, in an unorganized way, a lot of organizations must be working on that, but we can have a solution on that.
Yeah, definitely. So I think time up. I'm so sorry, but
We're very sorry, but we cannot.
so but the panelists will be there, so you can have your discussion with them one-to-one, whomsoever you want to direct the question. But as of now, we need to leave, otherwise we'll be thrown out. So thank you so much for being patient, audience.